What is up, YouTube? So we have another Kickstarter MMO go right down the drain. This one is a Titan Reach. So I want to touch on this game for a quick second. Then I kind of want to touch on the kind of Kickstarter versus AAA MMO genre for a couple minutes on that. But yeah, Titan Reach announced that they are going to be shutting the game down for good. They originally, I think, had a Kickstarter goal of like over 400K, 400,000. Started about 2.5 years ago. And I think they reached just a little bit over 200. And they said they would get monthly installments. As we know, that's nowhere even close to having enough money to make an MMO at all, even an indie MMO. So I think that's one of the big reasons. They did not really give their reason. They said the reasons are private. Now, a lot of people are suspicious with that reason. I am not going to say anything because I don't know the reason. It could be family issues, so I don't want to say anything negative if it's sensitive, but there are people that are calling them out, saying scammers or whatever. Who knows what the real reason is? Obviously, funding had to play a role in it. It just, to me, had to play some type of role. The only thing they did talk about was they have future plans to really implement the NFTs and crypto, which I'm not a fan of. Now, they said they're going to do it differently than other games, but I don't want that really entering the games, but it's headed that way with a lot of games. But so there's another Kickstarter MMO down the drain, but I kind of want to touch on the cold Kickstarter things. It started probably 10 years ago, really started taking off. All these Kickstarters. We've had games like Star Citizen raise insane amount of money, but still hasn't launched, which is strange to raise that amount of money. Now, they're very ambitious with their game, but I think they've had plenty of time to launch a game. You got other games like Camelot Unchained, which was my number one game in development for a little while because I wanted a Dark Age of Camelot 2. They had Mark Jacobs, who made Dark Age of Camelot. He developed Warhammer Online, which did take some criticism, but I had fun with it. I had fun with Warhammer Online, even though EA probably messed up that game a little bit. But he was making, I was like, oh man, we can get Dark Age of Camelot 2, basically what he was kind of trying to design. So I was super stoked. Of course, that game's kind of went down the drain. Crowfall did not make it either. I mean, it launched, but no population. Bare bones. Completely bare bones. That game has been in development for a long time too. So it's like the Kickstarter genres really, really struggle to take off. I do think the one that's going to make it that started as a Kickstarter is Ashes. Ashes Creation. I mean, first of all, Steven has a lot of money himself. They've raised a lot of money. They got a big team, so I think they're going to make it. I have been in the alpha, and it's still far away. It's not close to being ready for launch, but I think that is one Kickstarter that's going to make it to launch. I think I don't know if they're going to better. The game is pretty ambitious. I don't know if they're better get everything in the game. The class system's pretty deep, but we'll wait and see. But I think the game is still a few years away. But I do have hope with that game. But I hope we get back to making some more AAA MMOs. We've hardly had none. We had New World last year. Kind of been a disaster. We got Lost Ark that just launched a few days ago. I do think that's going to make it. I did play on the Russia server for a couple months. It's had massive success so far. Has it been a perfect launch? No, but it hasn't been a horrible launch in MMO standards. Some MMO standards launches are just horrible. Complete disaster. So, but the game's been out. They've had time to polish it. There's an insane amount of content. They got PvP. They got PvE, depending on what you like. They got a lot of just exploring. They got ships, housing. So I do think the game is going to make it. Plenty of classes to play. So I do think that's the next kind of big successful MMO in the West. And I do think outside of Ashes, I do think the Riot Games, I have very high hopes for that just because they've developed League of Legends and Valorant. Of course, they got the fighting game coming out. But I'm hoping that one's going to be very big because they do have a track record of making big, massive games with a big population. And they do have the funding behind it to make an MMO. So I'm hoping that game really can be a big MMO. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on all this. Kind of sucks more MMOs just didn't make it. But I don't know about you guys. Let me know in the comments. I basically gave up on Kickstarter MMOs. It just has not been many successful ones. So I've almost just, if it's Kickstarter MMO, I'm just kind of like, okay, I have zero hope anymore for him. There's a point 5 years ago, I was like, yeah, great, Kickstarter MMO, let's go. Now it's like, okay, nope, it's not going to make it. But I'm hoping Lost Ark's a big success. That will kind of snowball. Maybe some more developers will get back. AAA developers will jump back in and make some MMOs. But I think it's just so expensive. It's such a massive time and resource implementation to make an MMO. You know, I think a lot of MMO games that would have been MMOs moved to the survival era. You know, back 10 years ago. That's when when the survival era started booming, and the MMOs slacked off. That's kind of, I think, what they started doing. They switched from making MMOs to survival games. But kind of my thoughts, guys. That's it for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll be back with more gaming news. See you next time.